So being a queer person, I found out, and I hang around a lot of gay men, 50 to 60% of gay relationships are open. Okay. Um, I think for all relationships that people report that are slightly open, I think for marriages, I think it's like 5%. So, queer people engage in open stuff pretty often. I'm not closed off to the idea of something being open eventually. There are some specific parameters, but I can be jealous. And so most of the stuff that my spouse or, relationship does, I wouldn't necessarily I'm like, if you flirted with somebody, don't tell me. But it, but also if you did something or said something to somebody that you shouldn't have and somebody else knows, you better tell me first, and you're gonna get my wrath and I'm gonna kick your ass. So although I think open relationships are good for some people, I don't know if they would work for me, and I don't know. There's a chasm there. How do you feel about that stuff?
Yeah, if that's your cup of tea, then definitely go for it. But for me personally, like, there's no way I could do that. Absolutely no way. I would constantly be thinking about like what they're doing, like, does he like her more than me? And like, I don't know, like, I'm a selfish person. Like, I want the attention, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like, I feel like I go above and beyond, with certain aspects of the relationship, like, more than what is required. And I want that to be reciprocated. And I don't think that can fully be the case if you're in an open relationship.
yeah. I studied some stats about this. I think we all know that um, that marriage is something that fails at this point more often than it succeeds. And so the lesson from that is, I think, wait longer until you get married. I think your success rate increases dramatically once you marry after 30. So whether we did it by choice or not, shout out to me and Danny since we're both 32. But I read somewhere, and I don't know if this is like really good, strong research. I don't think it is, but I read somewhere, and it says on CNN that some research suggests that 92% of open marriages fails, fail. And so when we're looking at this stuff from a philosophical standpoint, it's also very important to look at the data. And you can see that if your intention is to be in a 30-year long relationship or marriage, things are going to be rocky, boring, bad, tired, somewhere in the middle there at some point. And then if you have somebody else in your head thinking, like helping you think that the grass is greener, I could see why that would destroy a marriage, you know? So you guys, when we're thinking about this stuff, you guys, we all have to be a little bit realistic.
Yeah, that's a really interesting statistic. And I'm curious if they're counting marriages that started as open and relationships and marriages that um, picked up polyamory, like somewhere in the middle of the relationship. Like, I feel like that's a pretty important distinction to know about because um, you have me watching Insecure now on
Yeah.
HBO, and I'm in the second season, and one of the girls runs into a guy who is in an open marriage, and she starts to fall for him. And like they picked up the open relationship like further along into the marriage because they realized that um being committed to one person isn't something that they could do and still
Yeah.
have
I
a
remember
successful
that.
marriage. So as of right now, like I can't picture myself like being in a scenario like that. Like I don't see that happening, but things change, right? So that's not my plan for 20 years from now, but I guess never say never, but yeah, that's not something that I think I could do.
Yeah, I think the best thing, I think that one thing that conservatives get right is I think that there is something to be said about the stability of society when people are married long term, when people raise children and stay with their spouses. Like, yes, you and I, being the age that we are, we've seen a lot of miserable marriages, but when you look at the statistics on what happens to children that don't have a father in the house, it's really, really concerning. And so that tells me that the unstable way in which we are relating to each other is not healthy. It's not long term. I think a lot of it feels like the drug of having too many choices. We're on a high all the time from all the choices that we have. And so as a society, we have to find a way to commit to our families and our jobs and our hobbies, but also our relationships. I have a lot of long-term friendships that make me extremely happy. I think that the right thing for people to do when they find a partner is to stay with them. But you know what, on the flip side, now that I'm thinking as a woman, what are the main reasons that relationships fail statistically? I think the number one reason is a lack of commitment, which I think that talks about that, like, lends to like too many choices. People get bored and they have other options. But the number two and number three are cheating and finances. And I can't tell you right now. I mean, my instinct right now, if somebody were to cheat on me, I would calmly have a conversation with them, disappear, and they would never see me again.